Welcome to Rebel Watch, an all Star Wars podcast.
Hey, what are you trying to push on us?
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly.
Hey Star Wars fans, welcome back to Rebel Watch. I'm Ez, and this is Mike. How's it going today, brother?
Brother, I'm feeling a little under the weather.
Same, man. I'm really glad you brought these.
Ricolas?
I needed a cough drop, so I'm feeling good.
Hopefully, you don't hear those swishing around on the new equipment.
Oh yeah, hopefully we don't hack up a lung here too. We really both are like super sick. So, but you know what?
It's
Nothing.
just influenza.
Nothing's gonna. No, nothing's gonna stop us, bro.
No, nothing's gonna stop us. Not negative 20-degree weather. Not the flu.
No.
Not,
I will finish what we started,
even if it's TB,
which is not what Ryan Johnson did.
No.
But
did he?
Oh, I'm just kidding.
That is a topic.
I'm
to
joking.
Be debated.
It is, and I completely disagree with what I just said there. I just thought it'd be funny to be kind of.
It was funny.
Ironic.
I
All right.
enjoyed it. We got a different set going up here.
We do, guys.
We got some shots going up. It's a little different. We can actually look at each other and have dialogue.
Yeah, now we can actually look across the table and talk, which is sweet. One thing that Ez is really limited, and by the way, I look like Jabba the Slut over here, laid back.
That's okay.
I wanted these mic stands so that way I could kind of just relax a little bit, okay? Get in my comfort zone and talk to y'all.
I'm still waiting on my Lazy Boy recliner that you have so I can relax.
That'd be
I
fantastic.
would love to relax on the podcast. That sounds great.
That really would be. It reminds me of the Family Guy thing where they find the couch.
Oh, it's a great couch.
They find that couch and they put it in the Millennium Falcon. That's great.
I feel like my Peter Griffin's actually more on par right now because I'm starting to, it's just it's really hitting.
Yeah.
But yeah. So good call.
So yeah, we have a new setup. We also have new mics.
We do. And as before we get too deep here, how did you afford all this equipment?
Right.
I feel like we need to disclose that information for the viewers. Some of them in our most recent videos have already suspected this. We might as well come out and say it.
Yeah.
Do we want to thank our parent company, Walt Disney?
Yeah. We would like to thank Disney
for the sponsorship.
And providing us with the equipment.
It's great. They saw our. I think it was the in defense of the Last Jedi video.
It absolutely was.
Do you want some Shure microphones
and I wasn't supposed to say this, but deal's already been done.
Deal's done. You
Kathleen Kennedy hit me up and said, "Could you do about 16 more of these videos?"
Absolutely. And
in defense of the Last Jedi.
We will continue.
We absolutely will.
If those checks keep coming. Actually, speaking of which, I haven't received my check yet.
Right.
I think the check maybe was sent directly to your direct deposit rather than mine. So, Kathleen, if you could maybe switch that, I'll provide you my routing number.
Yeah, and by the way, it all went to the equipment, so it's not like I don't know why you're griping over there.
Like we bought a mansion or something.
Right. But no, we really do like this. The one thing has got to watch is my hand here.
That hand sneaks up into my shot.
It sneaks up into Mike's shot, so we're still trying to figure that out. But
and you're a bit of a hand talker.
Yeah, I like
Look at me. I'm throwing hands. Look at all this room left and right.
Bro,
I feel bad for Ez. He's you can use that right arm.
I'm confined. Yeah, I'm actually left-handed, so I don't really typically use my right hand like this. But it's okay. We'll make it work. I'm a bit of a lefty, so.
Let's disclose, we actually are not sponsored and or work for Disney.
Not yet.
We can ride this as long as we want.
Right, not yet.
Fair call.
So anyways, we wanted to kind of do a couple things today. You want to run over, go over the outline just real quick and kind of talk about what we have?
As we got a good discussion.
Yeah, I think we do.
Spoiler alert, it involves The Last Jedi. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
The topic hasn't gone away. Why? Because it's a great movie.
Right.
But topic one is the only topic, and it's got some subtopics here. But it is The Last Jedi. First, we're going to talk about fan reactions. We did a lot of that in our last video. But some of those reactions are starting to subside.
Yeah.
But then you have a small minority that still is hell-bent on ruining Disney.
Right.
So what are you seeing out there with the fans? What are people saying now?
Well, I've just been kind of reading articles and just different things about what people are talking about. And, the people who have, I guess, negative things to say or what have you are sometimes more likely the people to get out there and, I'm not leaving, when I go to, a restaurant or whatever and I had a great experience or whatever, I'm not leaving a positive review like I should all the time.
No.
I probably should.
You may leave your number.
I may leave my for the waitress. Sure. Wow, did that just
No.
redact that? Are we already doing redactions? Like, what in the heck is going on? 740. I'm just kidding.
No, that is actually it.
That is the.
We'll finish that later. It's down in the description.
It is. But so, like if I leave a restaurant and I had a really bad experience, I'll go write like a negative review. It just seems like that's more like what people would do. So I feel like that's why it is a divisive. It's a reset. We're going to talk about that later. Pressing the reset button on Star Wars, and the idea that we've killed some people's childhood.
Yeah.
We did in a
Some
sense.
people, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Han Solo, died. Luke became one with the Force, and so on. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think though, over time, people have gone back and watched it more. And I even have a girl I work with who, Sarah, we're going to bring in the podcast, okay?
Yep.
But, today she was like, yeah, I agree with you. She was like, 25 minutes of that movie were epic. And I was like, knock it off. Knock it off.
Wow.
So she's going to come on here and share some
on
of
the
her.
podcast.
But you do have a few people like that where, like there's that person who really just, it did not land with them, and everyone else in our English hallway there loves it, loved it. Can kind of see where, you had some issues with it, but like visually it's stunning. I mean, you can say what you want about the Leia scene, but
It was different.
it was different. But like still, overall, there was like really good scenes. And I'll give our buddy Matt had said something a couple of days ago, almost that like maybe those highs were so high, and that sometimes a low, then when you throw a low against such a big high, it can make people go kind of like, what? It's all over the place. You know what I'm saying? So I try to see where people are coming from, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm like we're pretty uber Star Wars fans. I mean,
we have a podcast.
we've been called fanboys quite a bit down in the comments.
We really have.
We have,
A
which
lot.
I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I think.
So.
I think you're a fanboy or a fangirl if you enjoy it. Why
Yeah,
not? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. It's all subjective, man, and you can't discount their opinions, and that's fine.
No.
It's just when it becomes. I mean,
Well, go
there's
ahead.
been
Mike has a little bit of a rant.
There's
that-
there's been some personal stuff. Like it's
Yeah.
fine to make a discussion, about your subjective opinion and what you didn't like, whether it was the story or the way it was shot or what. No,
Right.
that's fine, and we can discuss that. But it's when it becomes, you're stupid, you're not a true Star Wars fan, or really insane topics or discussions that were even a lot of our comments. We didn't ask for this. Nothing we said or I feel in this movie gives some leftist propaganda agenda from Disney. I don't.
Yeah.
It's so uncalled for. I don't. Disney is one of the they produce some of the most traditional stories
Yeah.
in the history of cinema. I don't know how you say that simply because you have a female who is embodying this force and doing things that we've typically seen a male do 40 years ago.
Right.
I just, that baffles me that's like
The
a
big
thing.
issue.
I don't get it.
Yeah, and part of what I think people are missing too, I get, Rey's out there in the front and she's your protagonist, right? But with it, what's so cool about this is that, Kylo Ren and Ben Solo is our known Skywalker family member.
Yeah.
Who, it's unlike Anakin where in the prequels where we got to see him on the light side and turn to the dark side. We just get to see him full-fledged. We know he once was a student, and it's just a really different idea and perspective. It's something we hadn't really seen.
Yeah.
And we'll talk in a little bit about what George Lucas expected to, to see or what his vision was versus what they're doing. And I think people will be surprised as to what we have to talk about there.
I think so too. But I mean, you saw that happening though in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. The Clone Wars movie, we went and watched it, was
Yeah.
like 2008.
Right.
It was terrible. We didn't understand what was going on. I don't even think we knew that there was going to be a cartoon series based off of it, or that it was going to continue. Maybe we did.
Oh, well, and we just didn't. We weren't following it. Like we weren't reading all the little nuggets and
No,
stuff. There was
it-
probably there. We just
It
didn't
might
know.
have
Yeah.
been, but I mean, your main character is Ahsoka.
Uh-huh.
He was going in that direction. It just, there wasn't enough time there with Lucas in this property to really see that come. But this brings in another thing. take those same people making this argument of this whatever fantasy that they have about, oh, it's this feminist agenda. Get over it. It's like
Right.
it's literally like 2018.
Right.
I can't. If that's your view, then you just. But here's the thing: in 1977,
Right.
when they rescue Princess Leia, and she pretty much just makes fun of Luke Skywalker for saving her, a little short to be storm, and she gets them the hell out of that situation.
Right.
Or in Episode 5, when they're on Hoth and she's directing ships to go, and she's calling the shots and being the last person to stay. Were they pissed off after watching that? Like, oh, this is just George Lucas pushing some feminist agenda. Like,
I know.
Were they having those same thoughts then?
The thing that is crazy is that historically, Star Wars, it was a culture shift.
Yeah.
I mean, it created a culture shift. And honestly, where we are now is a result of what happened there. So, in my opinion, Princess Leia, that Carrie Fisher, that is who she is as a person. She was all for this as a person, and she loves that character, and it really pushed society and culture forward. I think
She was
to
much
see her in
more-
those roles.
I agree. Yeah, and she was much more than some skimpy bikini in Episode 6. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know. I don't know where this. I get that it's coming from. It's a very dark place. Let's call it the dark side.
Let's
of
call
the
it what it
Star
is,
Wars
Mike.
community.
Let's
It's
call
the
it what it
dark
is.
side. It is.
It's allowed to be there.
It's
but
allowed to be there, and maybe it wasn't so prevalent, and maybe it's prevalent now because we have
excuse me.
we have social media, we have all this ease or this access to communication.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why we're seeing it more now. But it's just that blows my mind, man. And maybe that's just because I like to think we're pretty progressive dudes.
Yeah.
It's just we need less of that, especially on the internets. We need less hate. We need. If you are so upset you're not going to let your kids watch this Disney product, then like, what are they watching?
Right. Well, we're talking about a select few, mind you.
I know, but they're dominating the feeds right now at times.
Which is why people need to stand up. I think people need to stand up. If you like the movie, let people know, and
Agree.
They can get angry about it. It is what it is. It's fine. But you're allowed to have those strong opinions. We're going to let you have those and what have you. We are just going to be the opposition.
You may be called
to that. You know what I'm saying?
That's right, yeah.
So, where there's great darkness, light will rise to meet it.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, but
And dude,
no, I'm not sorry.
you're not sorry, and that's the thing. Our last video was titled "In Defense of the Last Jedi." Mm-hmm. The first 40 minutes, we discussed the cons.
We did.
Went through the criticisms. We agreed with every single point people were making that they were critiquing.
Uh-huh.
But we had a broader perspective and an understanding of what was going on. At least we think, and
Right.
maybe they didn't see it that way. That's fine.
Right.
But I don't want people to think that we're not paid by Disney. Are we? I mean, maybe now. But we're not just accepting this because it's a Star Wars product.
Yeah.
It's to us, it was genuinely just good filmmaking.
Yeah.
And a solid story that we enjoyed. There was some weird stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've beat this to a dead horse on this channel.
Yeah, we have.
all
Yeah.
of this. But I don't want to just sit here and bash all those people, but have them think that we're just gonna love this movie regardless.
Right. I saw someone who, like, on one of our comments or whatever, and thanks, guys, by the way, for all the comments. We appreciate all the feedback,
That's awesome.
and we love reading it. I love going back.
Haven't deleted
it's-
one.
No, honestly, we haven't. I mean, just let it go. But someone said, like, hey, this is one of the few in defense of Last Jedi videos that we saw. Quite frankly, one of the reasons we decided to do it was because, we didn't see a whole lot of people out there defending it.
No.
It was like jump on the bandwagon, let's be critical, because that was cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So we'll talk more about the divisiveness of it and the reset button here in a second. But
Come on.
man, I mean, I just think there's more to talk about there, and there's reasons why we needed this film.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm excited, and so let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what you have read up on a little bit.
okay,
There's some discussion now with The Last Jedi and how that would compare, how it versus George Lucas's interpretation of where
that,
7, 8, and 9 would go.
yeah. So
What do you see him?
a common misconception, I think, is that people believe, and I've said this on the channel, and maybe someone's called me out for it, and that's fine. When I often talk about Legends, or I talk about Jason and Jaina Solo, or Anakin Solo, or Ben Solo, the kid, or Ben Skywalker, the kids. I should separate those from maybe what George Lucas's vision was. True. Because those were authors that were just had the universe was open for them to write in, and
but you know what? It was very closed too. If you look at all the different trilogies that were created, we talk about how expanded it is. Some of these authors are beating the same story into trilogy after trilogy.
Yeah, well, at times, yeah. And I mean, it was like once a book had came out on a time period, and it had told that story, no one retold the exact same story. But you're right, like the elements and the arcs and stuff, And then they kind of filled in all those gaps. And remember when you got into in the early 90s with Timothy Zahn and this Thrawn trilogy, and they moved on from there into the New Jedi Order and things like that, which was much later actually. But we weren't allowed to go back and touch pre-episode 4. Yeah, you couldn't really do it because George Lucas was like, "I'm working there, and you get out of my way." I am doing what I want to do there, and so that was kind of neat. Like a couple things you got to see were when he established episode 1. Shortly after that came out, the Jedi for junior readers, because at the time I was a junior reader.
You were a junior, a DK reader,
a DK reader, and so I read the Jedi Apprentice books, which was Obi-Wan going through all of his, which is, by the way, if you've got any young kids who need a good series to read, even though it's Legends, it's still, I think it's one of those things that they could actually deem canon because it's Qui-Gon Jinn training Obi-Wan leaving and coming back, and the struggles that they had before episode 1. So really cool stuff. But my point is, when George Lucas, if he were to shift his focus to the sequels versus the prequels, it would have been his story to tell. You know what I mean? He had an idea as to where he wanted to go, and that idea, according to Pablo Hidalgo and different people, is that Han and Leia's son would turn to the dark side. We said that's where we're at.
Eerily similar
to what we have, right? And now in the Legends books, it was Jason's twin sister, who confronted him and had to, take him down. Yeah. And there was also an element of from George Lucas, not in Legends. This is different. In the Legends books, Luke wasn't really like a recluse or whatever until you get to like Jedi Outcast and things like that. He created his academy. He fought in the Yuuzhan Vong War and all of those things. But what George Lucas, his sort of vision of 7, 8, and 9, the sequels, was to have Luke be more of a recluse.
Yeah, they actually showed some of the concept art recently, and it's actually eerily similar to Octo 2.
Really?
There's some modern features. There's kind of dome, it almost looks like a UFO sitting on some rock, like a mountain.
Okay.
It looks eerily similar to Octo 2. It's super cool. And you're just it's eerily similar. So how much did they bring him in, if at all, for this story?
Well, I think those concepts and things, I don't know for sure. I'm kind of just speculating here, but I'm guessing if you saw that, then there were things out there. There was artwork and different things. There was stuff that they didn't use in the originals. Go look at I just forgot his name. One of the original concept artists or whatever. Somebody can leave it down in the comments. I totally forgot who it was. And there's a lot of unused characters and stuff, or different versions of characters that Rebels is using, right? They're pulling,
or that Rogue One's using.
Yeah, Rogue One used and things like
K2.
That. So again, they went back and sifted through all of that sort of stuff, and I believe Rian Johnson, I think, kind of pulled some of this together. What's different about the timeline that I think George Lucas had in mind, and from what I read in this article and just listening to Pablo Hidalgo and reading his tweets and stuff, he was giving an interview somewhere. It was on a podcast, or it was on, I can't remember where it was at. And he was talking about how George Lucas kind of originally intended what we see in 7 and 8, so The Force Awakens and then The Last Jedi, was actually more, if you take all of that and kind of roll that into episode 7. So George was getting more and almost all of that done in 7.
Wow.
Sort of.
Let's go.
Right? I mean, I know a lot to get done, but I mean, would have done it maybe differently, but that was more of where he was going to go with it. And the idea to push Luke out and back and into another movie came from different people inside of Lucasfilm. So for this, but yeah, I mean, so he had those ideas are there. But don't get the Legends books confused with, because when George, if he would have decided to do the sequels, all that's off.
Yeah. So what's so those people saying, "Oh, this isn't Star Wars"?
He would have decanonized it, I believe.
He would have decanonized all that.
Yeah, he would have, because
I don't know how you wouldn't have.
I mean, maybe he would have left some of the stuff that was leading up to the part where, Jason falls to the dark side or something like that. Maybe he would have let that stuff go, like the Jedi Academy stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. So I think that's interesting for people to remember, because he had to go there, and it was almost like the extended universe was so big, so beloved by people like myself, that it's like, I don't know if that was a factor in where do you go? Do you pass it off to somebody else who can just decanonize all of it and then move forward? But then they still took his vision, some of the elements of his vision, forward with this. I don't know.
I think they've done a decent job. I mean, they've done it with some of the novel characters, like with Thrawn. That was a huge success.
Right.
So I don't know. It's all subjective with what's your Star Wars. So like, I don't know. Put it in the comments. Like as just talked about. Like, is Star Wars to you the expanded universe? Is it? Do you even know of George Lucas's concepts that probably would have taken it in a somewhat similar direction? Obviously, a little different.
Sure, it would have been different. I didn't mention some of the things that were going to be different, but there were definitely going to be differences and stuff. It was,
but may not have been what everyone expected from. And we talked about this. We were driving somewhere. I don't know. We were turning an intersection. It just hit me. I was like, for Disney to take this product that's already has this expanded universe out there. They're picking up from 6. We already have all these books out there telling tons of different stories. There's different levels of canon.
Right.
And then you have George Lucas's concepts. What is Disney supposed to do? Like that's a, I don't know if you call it. Do you call it a pigeonhole? I don't even know. I don't know what that is, but that's difficult.
It's threading the needle, man. That's why I thought The Force Awakens, people got all upset because it wasn't like a reset.
Yeah.
And wait a second, like, I don't know. I feel like if they would have did that, people slammed that for being, we've said this over and over again, for being too similar, and it reminded them too much of their childhood, except for you killed Han Solo or whatever, and things like that. And then there's Rey, and we have got this female protagonist or whatever. Get out of here.
Yeah.
But then the idea that, so that wasn't a reset. We go to Rogue One, which you can't really. That's just new. That's just a good story in between. It's a good filler.
Yeah.
And then you go to The Last Jedi, where things have to change. I was reading another article. I've been reading a lot of articles, right? And one of the things they talked about was the ambiguity in this, and how, your good guys. Mark Hamill's often said that Luke Skywalker was so attractive because he was just like, he was very connectable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was what people wanted to be. It was that through and through, true hero, sort of thing. And that's kind of what Rey is. But then people are calling her Mary Sue, like a Mary Sue character or whatever.
That annoys me. You know why?
You wouldn't call Luke Skywalker that.
Go read the description of Episode 4 that came out when it was just Star Wars. A farm boy, a simple farm boy,
right,
who ends up saving the galaxy,
right.
No one knew. We had hints with Obi-Wan that maybe there's something there with his lineage or whatever, but he was a simple farm boy.
Right.
Really no different than Rey.
Yeah.
At that point, the lineage doesn't matter. I mean, because they're in the same situation.
Right.
They're strong with the Force. Doesn't matter how they got there. It's what they do with it.
Right.
So it's very similar. And some of it's just the fact that she's a woman. It's just, I know. It's mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing. Yeah, I know.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm better than anyone else. But damn it, like, you got to get with it, man. You got to get with the times. Like, this world is better off with a female influence. It just is.
Yeah.
It just is. For hundreds of years, our society has been missing out.
I've said that, like, I can't, like, my little niece now, like I can't wait next year to kind of dress her up as Rey. You know what I mean? She's going to love it, and she gets to be the hero.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty awesome. Pretty cool.
We were really touched by that when not the Last Jedi, when The Force Awakens came out. We went to watch the premiere.
Right.
And that was before reserve seating happened across the nation,
Right.
at least for us.
Yeah.
And we're waiting in line, and we just see all these people come by, and all these little girls dressed up as Rey.
I know.
Or some as Phasma. Like, it was
Right.
just, it was awesome.
Well, in Star Wars Celebration, we saw the same thing, and just these little girls that were so happy and so just like I don't know, just it was like empowering, right? They felt empowered and they looked empowered, and
Absolutely.
it was awesome, you know.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. That was an experience.
What's wrong with having one of those? I mean, we have we have more than enough male characters that you can connect with.
Exactly.
You know, different types, different ethnicities, different whatever. You know,
that's fun. And there's a lot of females who watched Episode 4 and connected so much with Luke. Simply because he was that do-gooder, like we talked about. He was a simple guy who did cool things and made the right choices.
Right. Well, here's the thing. So one of the things people, I think a critique of this has been, you know, your hero, when you meet your hero, he's not quite everything that you thought he was going to be, right? He's not the legends that you hear.
You're starting to sound like a little bit of the Last Jedi here. Digging into that conversation a little more.
Well, I'm just real quick kind of saying, I know I can't, but it's going to gravitate. Used to be before The Last Jedi, the conversation would gravitate towards Snoke and the Unknown Region. Now it's just going to gravitate back towards, you know, the story elements and the themes in this movie, which is fine. So part of the, like I said, ambiguity before was the idea that your good guys may make a bad decision, and your bad guys like DJ can show kind gestures of kindness, and it's not all black and white exactly. And the idea that you grow old and things, you start to kind of lose that, you know, optimistic. I can Dak. I could take on the whole empire myself. You know,
he tried,
and he did. God bless him. May the force be with him.
That's right.
You know,
always.
But you know, our heroes have grown old, and to see them kind of not quite lose hope, but Luke is reminded of it through Rey and Yoda, and then Luke reminding, you know, Leia that no one's ever really gone and things like that is huge. I think it's really cool.
There's a what do we call it? Becoming wizened. We always say that when you become more wise.
Yeah.
You may look at Obi-Wan in Episode 4 and be like, wow, that guy's sitting there in the desert. He's probably had a lot of time to meditate. And I'm sure he did. And he learned a lot from Yoda. But even at that point, I don't think Yoda, obviously Obi-Wan, had not learned that appreciation of failure and what they did wrong. So, I mean, we haven't really seen that kind of wizened, like, older character that's been through a lot until Luke. Maybe I'm wrong, but, like, it's this hero of ours. I mean, I guess no one really had an idea of Obi-Wan in their mind and what he'd done during the Clone Wars and all that cool stuff. So he just didn't know any better or whatever. But we see Luke doing all these great things. How could he fail? It's just
right.
I mean, that's
well. Okay. So you look at like Luke and compare Luke to Yoda. I think Yoda had maybe learned that lesson that failure, it can be, you know, your greatest teacher or whatever, and that was a lesson Luke still had to learn.
He did.
And so I think that's really neat to see that evolution. And for Yoda, in a sense, what we've always talked about in the prequels was a failing of the Jedi Order.
Yes.
And Luke calls it out for that and calls it what it is and acknowledges it. And then it's like, Yoda's like, and you're right. And that's fine. And we are what they grow beyond.
And that, I love that.
I mean,
but you know what, maybe before we went and watched the movie, we were speculating that.
Yeah.
We were there. We were ready to see Luke having failed. We didn't think, maybe in the beginning we were talking about being on Octours, like, oh, he's seeking it's the first Jedi temple. Like, we were like, clearly he's there looking for information. Not so much. Not so much.
No.
I mean,
and that's what kind of shocked. I mean, he came there to die. Yeah.
And Yoda, I mean, when Yoda shows up, he was. It's like, missed you, I have. I mean, for at least 6 years, he probably hadn't communicated with it.
Yeah, well, he had shut himself off from the Force. Exactly right.
So, even like, we were even...
That's a really good point.
Ready to be like, he's hurting.
Yep.
He's hurting. This isn't I'm spiteful towards Ben Solo, maybe a little bit, but he failed.
Right.
Some people are calling him a child murderer as online. It blows my mind. This kid was more evil
Right.
than Luke had ever experienced.
Right.
And he's a Jedi. What haven't we seen them do with the Sith Lords or dark side? They strike them down, or they'd have to.
Right.
How do
Yeah.
you stop him?
Right. You know,
How do you fault him for that?
he
I
didn't
don't
see
get
his
it.
nephew anymore. Like,
He didn't see his nephew.
Like a moment took over where, you know, even if it is the will of the Force, all of a sudden this urge rises in him to strike down darkness.
Yeah.
And it's this old way that he's been taught. It's the idea, you know what I'm saying? It's finding that balance in the in-between place, and then quickly realizing, whoa, you know, I can't do this. And then the damage is already done, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know that really, I thought it was kind of brilliant.
It is, man.
You know, it's all
really
about
is.
perspective. It was all about perspective from Ben Solo's point of view.
Yeah.
Again, we go back to a certain point of view.
It's
A subtle
exactly
reference, a subtle reference to a certain point of view. You have
is.
his perspective. You've got Luke's perspective, who was there, and then you have Rey, who has to take those two, and she has to kind of wade the waters a little bit and figure
balance.
out,
Yeah.
where's the truth? Is it somewhere in the middle, or is it, you know what I mean?
Okay, just making sure
Sorry.
that we're still
Still-
in my shot.
Okay, yeah, my hand.
Totally
in there.
kidding. No,
okay,
no,
okay.
no, it was great. It was great.
Good.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of hate out there for this movie, man.
Yeah, yep. But there's a lot of love for it too.
A lot of love.
And there's just a lot of like excitement of like people are. I haven't seen any of the deleted scenes. I know some of that stuff is leaked and it's out there. I haven't seen any of those yet, so I'm really excited to see those. People are talking about them, making videos about them, and apparently they tell quite a bit, and they're really good deleted scenes, which is cool.
Is that Mike Zero? I have to check him out.
Yeah, Mike Zero somehow has a bootleg copy of everything.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
great. I'm sorry. I wait and I pay like a
Yeah.
normal.
Well, Disney might slip us a copy now.
They
but
send us a copy. Sorry. All right. I'm lying.
I got the Blu-ray actually. I meant to tell you in the Dropbox, but yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm interested to see where. I think now, like you and I are those people who were excited as to where could this go. Like, how do you do this? The other thing I have to mention. Can we spend 5 minutes real quickly
spend
on?
20.
Matt and I talked about this a little bit, and I think it's really important. And it is to point out that we didn't spend a lot of time on it, so maybe you and I can go more in depth in it.
Come on, let's go. I'm ready.
Is that they had every intention in this movie of Carrie Fisher living and being
Absolutely.
a big part of Episode 9. It's very clear.
Yes.
I honestly see parallels between, like her being a foil to Vader and Ben Solo being a foil to like an anti or like the opposite of. I don't mean, I guess a foil. I don't know of Luke Skywalker. Basically, the opposite, right? The flip flop there. So this mother son relationship versus father son.
And that's part of probably people's concern now, of like where Nine's going. I mean, you
Yeah.
take
Oh, they were aiming for a showdown, weren't they?
some
reunion?
confrontation of some
Yes.
sort,
Yeah.
which I would assume would result in her death.
Yes.
Maybe I don't know, unless you want to just tell about the story later and her passing or something.
Right.
If they 10 years, reboot this or something.
Right.
But that's part of people's confusion is where's this going now? But even if we take Carrie Fisher's passing out of there, some people are still like, where have we gotten? Where are we now with this?
Mm-hmm.
What has actually progressed? I think that's kind of the beauty of it.
Yeah.
But you're right. They fully intended for her
Absolutely.
to wrap this thing up, and maybe part of her learning well, not learning the Force, but like having those experiences, we would see even come to fruition even more.
Number one, Leia, one of her quote unquote powers is to communicate with Luke.
Yeah.
And she sensed things in the Force.
Yep.
So that whole idea that you could communicate Force projection and things like that makes a lot of sense for Leia. It would seem like it's something very easy for her to slip into with Ben Solo or Rey. And I totally was like, that's where they were going to go. She is a huge player, and you can tell. I mean, there was so much in this that, like, I think we talked about. Did they go back and change? I would love to get a book or something later on down the line, 10 years from now or whatever, that explains what 9 was supposed to be and where Story Group had it going. because I don't think it's going to be able to go that way at all. They have to change course.
Yeah.
And it drastically changes. I think people having the knowledge that Carrie Fisher had passed away and that Leia could not go forward has jaded what they see coming out of this. We're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Well, no, duh. They didn't think that was going to happen. They have this set up for her to play an intricate role and be a big player and to confront her son. You know, it's the ultimate confrontation.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a huge part. The lesser story going on, I thought they rounded out really nicely, was the development of Poe and how he can kind of pick up where she left off. Hopefully, like that was done really well too. I don't feel like there's going to be any issue there. Like he'll be this new leader of the resistance or rebels or whatever.
Can I tell you something?
Come on.
That's really cool about that.
Come on.
They did that in The Last Jedi. Genius on Rian Johnson's part. You know why? Because Leia had, I believe in 9, the idea was she was going to have to leave that resistance rebel side and go to the Force users side. And she was.
Yeah.
We showed her like a much more direct connection powers to the Force. She was going to have, because most of the time Han and Leia in the originals were always with the rebels, fighting the Empire, and Luke was over on the Force side of things, confronting his father. Leia passed that torch over to Poe and Lieutenant Connix, her daughter, which was really cool. She had a lot of lines in this. And I actually believe if they would have known, and of course they didn't, right? But I believe that if you could foresee things, the Holdo situation flip-flopped.
Yeah.
I mean, Leia would have been making that sacrifice. And if you can't look at that and see, I mean, Holdo then would be moving on with the Resistance. But I believe the way that they intended this to go was for Leia to be on that Force side and working with Rey, talking to Luke, talking to game planning about going after her son.
You blew my mind there. I started thinking about Carrie Fisher and Leia changing roles with Holdo and being that sacrifice there. That would have been so powerful, man.
Yeah, I just don't think I don't think they could figure out how to do it.
That would have been
in post-production, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you're right, because there was more for Leia there. And here's the question, man. Do you think there's such a story there with mother redeeming son or facing son or son? I mean, we say he's fully embraced the dark side now, but really fully embracing the dark side by, murdering both of his parents.
Yeah.
Are they going to try to do some sort of CGI? I know Disney's came out and said that we have no plans, so that's not going to happen.
Right. I don't know, man. I mean, I think that's exactly what's crazy is JJ's already pitched his story. He pitched it before The Last Jedi even came out.
You're right.
So he has been knowing what's going on. Her passing was the December before, so they'd had over a year. And I believe as soon as that happened, was it Colin Trevorrow or Trevorrow? However you say his name.
9, yeah.
Was supposed to do 9. They were working on that. Maybe they didn't like what he was talking about, where he was going to go, and they threw it back to JJ. And I just don't know.
Yeah. I
just know that I think years from now, historians, different people, us, will look back and say, "Wow." Like,
I love the historians. I love that you. Let's throw ourselves in there.
Historians.
I think it works.
But like you have to look at this movie and think that's where they were going. This is it's so affected the way I think people look at some of this, because when you walk out of there, her passing. Well, I guess just for your Star Wars fans like us, like kids going into it, some of them didn't even know who Carrie Fisher, is. They didn't know that she passed away. I had some of my students who didn't know that kind of stuff, and and this is why I thought of that, because they had said to me, well, she's going to redeem, her son and stuff like that, and I was like, oh my gosh,
because that's a great story
from a child's perspective. I mean, I have kids who are like in 9th grade, and I talked to this group of 9th grade boys, and they were like, "That's what's going to happen, Kirk. That's what's going to go on." And I was like, "Wow, guys." They didn't know. They didn't know that she had passed away, because they don't follow the news. They don't follow all that kind of stuff. So to see their perspective was really eye-opening. Like, that's what they saw in this movie.
Yeah.
And that's where they saw it going. Makes a lot of sense to me.
It does.
What
I would give to see that script right now.
I know.
See what he pitched and the reaction and something.
I hope they save all that, and I hope we get to hear about it someday.
I agree, because like with all the spoilers and stuff that came out and all that stuff online, Inside Star Wars, all the StarWarsNews.net, like None of this movie was spoiled for me. Like none of this.
No.
Nobody. Hey, we saw some shots from Mach 2 and stuff, but none of that was spoiled.
Right.
But something else that came out since our last video was that Rian Johnson was writing this story before Force Awakens had even been filmed.
Really?
Yeah.
So he had the story. He obviously had the story to go off of.
He had the story.
And the script and stuff.
But those theories about Rey, the speculations about Snoke, none of that had come out.
Right.
No one was talking about that.
Right, okay.
Whether he foresaw some of that after reading the script, cool.
Right.
But he didn't have these theories in the back of his mind when he's writing this movie.
Yeah.
So he also didn't know Carrie Fisher's passing. So
Right.
that I thought was really interesting. And so all these people are just like, you're just out to ruin our expectations of this. Those were conceived after the script was written, man. Like,
Right.
It just,
Right.
I thought that was really, there's been a lot that's come out recently that's, I don't know if.
Well, knowing that movie making process, the more you and I have looked into it and learned about it, is really interesting.
It is.
To look at the timelines as to when things happen. That tells you a lot, about just their thinking going into it. Honestly, not being, him doing that though almost helped him and like not being real jaded by the idea. See, and that's what a lot of people believe is that Rian Johnson was jaded by the backlash, quote unquote backlash that the Force Awakens got, and that
story was
is one of
dumb.
those. Yeah, that's one of those things that if he had really written a lot of that out and fleshed it out, then because they had before the Force Awakens comes out, they finished filming like a year before that, and they're just in post production. So the story had been there even longer before that, like the initial script and the read and stuff. So he had access to that, right?
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see exactly when he started and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's really interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So what else do we have, man? We had some other.
Mark Hamill,
Yeah.
who we know was very critical. Let's say very critical.
Right around Celebration.
Right around Celebration. You
Yeah.
could feel a little bit of tenseness on stage with Rian Johnson. And when they were discussing Luke Skywalker's role. And that had been flushed out a little bit before I even think we were there. But now, movie comes out. I mean, he's on Instagram, Twitter, just publicly apologizing for having critiqued Rian Johnson's vision or story.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He's apologizing now. He's like, he made I don't know if he called it a masterpiece, but some people are. I thought that was interesting. I think it's genuine. That's not. I don't think that's Disney coming in and saying, "Dude, hey, we're getting some bad rep here. Like, you need to go out and apologize and say this is great.
Yeah,
win some of these fans back, maybe."
Do you think?
Agree with. I don't think that. I don't think it was. I think this is Mark Hamill really appreciating this story.
Yeah,
because he himself, just like Luke Skywalker, did not understand this concept of failure and learning from it and being the best teacher.
Right.
He himself is a human flesh.
Well,
right
and his critiques, he had said early on, I haven't seen the music, I haven't seen it all put together. I just know my point of view, my perspective, and things like that. So you get the way things are cut together, plus the deleted scenes that are taken out.
Come on.
Sometimes you're like, this doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? And that's, you put in some of the extra stuff in there because the director has that whole vision and things, mapped out.
Yep.
So yeah, it can be hard for an actor sometimes, I think, to see that.
Yep.
And so he said, can't wait to. I remember when he had seen it, he actually kind of came out and he had already started to say, he hadn't apologized or whatever, but he just came out and was like, guys, it's, epic. I mean, he had good things to say about it. It's really good,
But I felt like at that point he hadn't really even that concept. Appreciating that concept really hadn't hit home yet. I don't know. That's just how it felt. I mean, it seems much deeper and more sincere now than rather just like, yeah, man, this movie, it's great. Like, get out there and watch it. Like, he understands now and expects the fans to appreciate it a little more, I think, as well. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that apology?
I think it's great. I think, wow, he's so important. I mean, he is so important to Star Wars. It's unbelievable. He's unbelievably important. So his opinion matters.
It matters.
And
he's not done.
Oh, he's not done.
There's no way.
No, he's not. There's another movie. He's in it. He's absolutely in it 100%. He actually might need to be in it more now than was originally intended.
I agree.
So, that's going to be crazy too.
Yes.
To be that Force ghost, that teacher, the third lesson to teach, some reveals maybe from Leia.
Yes.
It'd be cool if they could do Leia's, like Carrie Fisher's voice, or Princess
Yes.
Leia Organa coming in through the Force with her voice.
That'd be cool.
It'll be interesting. I don't know if they could do that or
Tough
not.
story to write, but
Yeah.
it'd be super cool.
So, I think it's great. I'm glad that he did it, and yeah, I mean, he enjoyed working with Ryan, and Carrie Fisher really did too. They were over.
Yeah.
He was over at her house, and she's a good writer, and they're going through lines and making them. Like, again, I think a part of this script, I'd love to hear Ryan someday say, like, look at all the different people who helped influence it. And he ran things through Carrie Fisher, a fellow writer.
It's great.
One of those critiques of George was always that that's a mouthful, George. We can't say all that. You know what I mean? So some of the improv came in, and some funny things came of it. But like, Mark Hamill talks about that a lot. It's just like, it was hard to say all those things.
Yeah.
But each line was filled with so much technicality, making references to a larger universe that the prequels kind of lacked. And that came back in The Last Jedi with Rian Johnson. He brought that style back.
I agree.
And I think that's why, number one, George Lucas liked it.
Yeah.
Came out and said it was brilliant. He
did.
called it brilliant.
He did.
So there's something for you.
He did.
And it's this reset. So one of the things I wanted to finish off with was that, is this the reset that we need? It's hard.
Is it?
Is it or is it not? I don't know, Mike. What do you
Is this a
think?
Dark Knight comparison?
Dark Knight.
Is it the reboot that we deserve?
Oh, good
How
call.
does that go?
I don't
even
remember.
recall. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like,
and 30 really takes over. And
it really does.
now you understand.
I understand now. Yeah, I'm out of my
This is
20s.
why we need the
Oh yeah, I
recline.
gotta. I'm now in my 30s, so I gotta relax and lay back
Yeah,
here.
man,
I
it's
get
time
you.
for us to live out our golden years. I think right here.
Yeah,
But,
so what do you think though? I mean, about the is it a reset? Do you think that was?
I do. I
Intentional,
I don't know, man. I think a little bit. I think it's needed because even for those fans that aren't as involved in theorizing as we are with The Force Awakens, our expectations still felt predictable. Anyone could have been like, oh, well, Snoke's going to be this Emperor type character, or Rey's going to become the Luke of the story, and Finn's going to be the Han Solo, and there could be a love story there. It felt a little predictable. And for something different to come in here, and folks like you and I having something so different and still appreciating it, I think there's something really awesome there. There's something I don't even understand it yet. I gotta see this movie more.
Well, yeah.
I've gotta get the Blu-ray. There's something different about it that is necessary, I think.
Right. Well, that's actually what Daisy Ridley said.
Yeah.
That it was right. It was necessary. It was unexpected or different, but necessary, needed,
But look, there's a lot of comparisons to The Empire Strikes Back in this
Oh my
movie.
God. They pay so much homage to the
know.
prequels, to all of the originals. It is kind of unbelievable. Where people kind of knock it is like, well, they kind of didn't continue all these different things with The Force Awakens. I kind of say hogwash.
Yeah.
Because here's why. That takes place like right afterwards.
It does.
It's almost like the story just continued. It wasn't like you flash forward and 10 years or 5 years and then all of a sudden. So that's where I was saying in the beginning how George had kind of said those two movies were almost one. And the idea is that all that stuff that you see, this continuate, who Snoke is, it's almost like Snoke turned into Darth Maul in episode 1. We just happened to see it spread out over 2 movies. We just got a little more, detail in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah.
On this whole situation. So problem is that we had 2 years to kind of speculate and run wild as fans. And as writers, that's not really maybe the way that they just bang bang back to back, and it kind of felt I feel like there is more ties and connections.
Yeah,
There's a continuation, anyways.
There's some continuation there to where it felt some of it, I said I felt like it was a little jarring, but like it did feel like a continuation, like you said.
I mean, the things I'll give it that didn't continue, because there were but for the most part, I felt like overall it fit. But I've said this since the beginning, even in our initial review.
Yeah,
was Finn and Rey's relationship.
Yes,
and how they were so intricate, such a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, Han and Leia, when they meet in 4, from that point forward, are stuck together, running the same storyline.
Yeah.
That's not happening. That's why sometimes those Reylo folk, much as I kind of go back and forth with it, it seems to me very much that Daisy Ridley Rey and Kylo Ren are joined at the hip. You know, there's something there. The Force is literally joining them together. Yes. It's like it's excluded Finn, which feels very different from The Force Awakens. So I get that. It does. That part I get. We knew nothing about Luke in The Force Awakens, so we had to learn all about that. Rey is actually still, I believe, the innocent, trying to figure things out, learning, character that she is. We didn't get a whole lot of Leia, so we got more of her in this role, teaching people about leadership and things like that. So trying to think of other Poe, his comedy was very similar to the comedy in The Force Awakens, which, we kind of were like, maybe just misplaced, and we didn't really like that it was right there in the beginning, but whatever. It was the same style. Yeah. Him confronting the villain using comedy, Absolutely. So they carried that over. I'm trying to think of other, elements.
Here's
Maz was different.
Yeah, you can chuck that out.
And I'm not giving people. There were some parts to it that I was like, what the heck?
I would have rather seen her come back in episode 9.
Me too. I don't know that they
flesh
needed to have her in this. It was like they stuck her in, like they forced her in there.
Yeah, it didn't need to happen. Here's where let me talk a little bit about how I feel this movie harked back to the original trilogy, and I think when The Force Awakens came out, it felt like Star Wars. There was so much, would we call it ambiguity, with Snoke, Rey's lineage, that's what Star Wars became. It wasn't so much like that in the original trilogy, right? I mean, yes, there's this huge bombshell that Vader is Luke's father, and then this Leia connection, but there's much more, there's bigger concepts in these movies, and I feel like Disney or Rian Johnson said, you know what, there was so much focus on these theories of a couple of characters. We're missing like really big concepts that we can appreciate more if we just chuck that stuff out. Like,
that's a really good point.
That's something that I think The Force Awakens failed to do. It felt like Star Wars, and it did a great job of making me care about new people, but almost to a fault, to where that's all I cared about.
Right, going into this, and all you cared about was, I need details on Rey, I need details on Snoke, I need more, I need to know what happened between Luke and yada, yada.
That's all a lot of people
But go back
about.
to the originals, we were actually lied to in 4 from a certain point of view.
Yeah.
We didn't get any backstory on Palpatine. We didn't know who he was. Vader, we had literally no idea other than that he killed and murdered your father,
exactly.
From that certain point of view.
Yes.
And then throughout that, you get a couple big bombshell drops, right, or whatever. And that's, I think, what people were looking for was this extra character details. I need to know their backstories, and I need to know all this different stuff. Whereas the themes and the elements, I don't know, like some of the bigger ideas, leadership, learning from failure, sacrifice,
redemption. Like, these are things that were in the original trilogy, and like the Force Awakens was great.
Yeah,
it really felt like Star Wars. It brought it back, but man, like, it was fun. The one thing it did by focusing on those and throwing in those little ambiguities, it made me care about these people.
Right,
and then, now that I care about them, chuck Snoke's theories out, chuck Rey's out, chuck a lot of Luke theories out about the temple and everything, And then it's just, how are these people affected by the choices they're making and those around them? It's so much more complicated than where's her history. And there's a place for that.
Yeah.
It's deep and sweaty online,
Right.
And legends, and some of the canon novels out there and stuff. But man, like, that's why I appreciate this movie so much more than I think I even do The Force Awakens now.
Yeah.
I care about these characters, but man, I care so much more about the decisions they make now, because none of that other shit matters.
Right.
Crap matters.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a continuation, but it's a throwback.
Right.
And I think the prequels even did that a little bit.
Dude, I was just about to say, like, when Yoda says, always two there are.
Yes.
He doesn't go into detail about, Darth Bane and the rule of two and start explaining for, a good 5 minutes as to all these histories, all these different things and stuff. That's what the cartoons were for. That's what books, other novels, it is the decisions. It's the things that what you decide to do. You don't have to give a lot of, I don't know. I think people are looking for like a big exposition on who is Snoke and someone telling a story with a big flashback or whatever. The biggest thing that we got like that was Luke and Ben Solo telling their backstory as to what happened with the downfall of the temple. Yeah. So we got a lot of questions and things answered there, essentially. Yeah. But if you answered all of those different quote unquote questions you had coming out of The Force Awakens, how would you ever get through and tell a story in this movie and move forward? All you're doing is filling in backstory and telling, whatever. Whereas, like, you can drop the one line that Obi-Wan, drops in the originals, or that Yoda drops in the prequels about some of these different things. The story of Darth Plagueis didn't have to go into a huge super detail, but it was that carrot that entices Anakin to join the dark side. So that was kind of needed, But maybe people wanted. Maybe that's what people were wanting, is like one or two more lines about Snoke or whatever. But I feel like what people wanted was like this big, super exposition. I'm going to sit down and tell you this whole detailed sort of thing about these characters, and that's not what you're not going to get that. I don't know.
I wanted exactly what you said. I still wanted a couple of lines from Snoke about what happened with him, but not at the point where we're sacrificing what we're talking about now is these concepts and what we're learning. And I was thinking, when we were talking about the prequels, yes, there's this crazy notion that Anakin was created from midichlorians. Shmi says there was no father. I can't explain it. I carried him. I raised him.
Right.
That's crazy, right?
Right.
You could. We theorized for days on that. You can say it was Darth Plagueis. You can say it was. But it became...
That was mind-blowing.
Yeah, mind-blowing.
When they did that.
Mind-blowing. Like, did Plagueis create him? Did Sidious create him with midichlorians? That is mind-blowing. But what the story... So we have that nugget of information, but this is what's great about the prequels, is the story of Anakin Skywalker and the choices that he makes and the things that he goes through and the manipulation that's occurring to make him the most villainous person of all time in this galaxy. It's not that he was created by midichlorians or that Sidious created him, but that doesn't matter, because he's Darth freaking Vader. So all that crap doesn't matter. He's strong, and now that's a great story. It's a great story of the loss of faith and focus and love and compassion, and then it's redeemed in the end. But none of that crap mattered. Right. But so this movie does tie a little bit with that. It gets a little bit with The Force Awakens, did a little bit there, but then The Last Jedi brings these bigger concepts that The Force Awakens was missing. But the prequels, I thought, did that really, really well. It almost tied these two later movies together in a way.
It did. And another thing about Darth Vader, when you look at Kylo Ren or Ben Solo, and is he redeemable after 3 movies? Why not?
He could be.
That Darth Vader was. I mean, Darth. You look at, like, Luke just believed in him. That's my father, and I still sense the good in him, the light and things like that. Okay, so why can't we still sense that in Kylo Ren? Why are we not allowed to? You know what I mean? Yeah. And just because Luke can't sense it doesn't mean that Rey can't. She's still fighting for him and still wanting him to turn back.
It could be.
And there's no reason that he can't keep going darker and darker and darker and darker.
To a point of no return. Possibly.
That, or then even a redemption. Because, like,
redemption.
Vader was the worst you could be, you know?
Exactly.
The baddest baddie. You know what I mean?
You never saw Vader having moments like Kylo Ren did where
Right.
he's down and he's like, I sense it. I sense you never
The pull
saw
to the
that.
light. Yeah. You don't,
But damn it, when he threw Palpatine over that rail,
I know.
it was genuine.
Yeah.
You could feel it, just Luke crying out, "Father," and just he's in a mask.
I know.
You see him turn,
And
you
you
could
s-
see it. You
I
could
know.
feel it.
You could see him turning
music
back and
helped
forth.
with that.
It did.
It just.
Well, and even there's like one little scene, you know, when he turns himself in with the cuffs, and Vader
Yes.
almost shows pride. He's
You're
proud
right.
of his son.
Yes, you're
Wow,
right.
look at how strong he's become. He's
Yes.
built his own lightsaber,
Yeah.
and it's just like,
It
wow.
Kylo could turn in a heartbeat, and
Right.
it could be these supporting just features that just make it believable.
Right.
But, or I'm for him just being the ultimate baddie. A Skywalker
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
rules
Right.
as he should.
Yeah.
And who's going to take him down?
Right.
And I mean,
Yep.
if he's not redeemed, then sweet.
Right.
Then that's how the Skywalker lineage dies. And how cool is that? Maybe
Or
we
it
need-
goes on in some dark, or
yeah.
you know, spends a little while on the dark side.
dark side. I mean, maybe the First Order rules for a while.
I'm honestly thinking about, like, you know, Ben Solo finds out that he has this dark Sith Lord grandfather, right?
Yes.
And that you could see almost like Ben Solo. Let's say he continues on the Skywalker line,
Yeah.
and then one of his descendants realizes Uncle, or like, you know, Luke.
Yeah.
Luke was this
Yeah,
Jedi master, you know, and
the
the
myth.
right, and it's just like we've always been dark side for as long as that person has known, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like there's another side to this.
How epic!
Great, you know, why not? Well, we've just been used to having our Skywalker on the light side,
You're
and
absolutely.
then
And you know what, dude? You just reminded me of conversations we had months ago.
Yeah,
When we were still doing Let's Look It Up,
yeah,
of humanizing the Empire.
yep,
And that's what a lot of the canon novels have done.
right,
And what if we got some heavy, not even episode 9. Let's talk 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
So heavy, like dark side.
yeah,
And the Skywalker lineage and the pulse of the light. Just like that would be so out there and epic.
Right.
But they've been preparing us for that
in
in a lot of ways,
yeah,
I think.
yeah. They have, yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, more and more, it's really interesting that, like, we connect with a Solo and a Skywalker.
Yeah.
And we don't know who Rey is. That's why we're all kind of hoping she's a Skywalker. That's why we fell in love with that idea, because that's who we want to connect with is a Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the only one that we have is on the dark side,
You're right.
and that we know of. And so there's such a different way of going about it, and it's so kind of really interesting to see that he's a victim, that these things happened to him. No one believed in him, you know. Yeah, he was being manipulated and turned in things, but he still had decisions to make. He was still at Luke's academy, you know. It's really interesting when you start to, you know, think about it.
It is you said Rey's not a Skywalker, but you know what? Now, in my eyes, I think she's so much like Luke didn't have any family. He saw his aunt and uncle burn. It's
Right.
the only family he had.
Right.
Pretty much looked at Obi-Wan as a kind of a father figure,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, a
Call it
role
that.
model. Yeah.
A role model of some
Yeah.
sort, and Yoda.
Yeah. A mentor, a
Was very
master.
quick to adopt these people as a family.
Right.
Rey's doing the same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing,
Especially
man.
with Finn, and then now she's been introduced to Poe.
Yeah.
And you almost see that, like, she's looking around on the Millennium Falcon, and it's like, this is my family. Here's why I'm. There's a reason I'm here. I'm here fighting for these people. But she still feels a connection, and still has the Force connection with Ben Solo, because some of his family is right there among her.
Absolutely.
And he should be on that side fighting with her. You know,
Absolutely right.
and it's like, it's such a hard, you know, thing to kind of watch.
It could that could be the quality that keeps him dark is the fact that she has embraced it and they've embraced her,
Yeah.
and that's what he's always wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
That could be what keeps
That
him,
could be.
you know, like it just
Because he wanted that belonging. He wanted to be the hero. He wants to be all these different things. But then Luke wants to strike me down and doesn't believe in me. But yet you have the acolytes of the beyond who want to worship him, and the Knights of Ren who want to follow him. Yeah. And he wants that sense of belonging.
And he's afraid. It's probably why a lot of Sith lords. He's not a Sith. We don't think he could be. But let's follow that structure. It's probably why a lot of Sith lords take an apprentice that's powerful. He might be a little fearful. And he's afraid.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand why she's as powerful as she is.
Right.
Or he's afraid. So,
and there's jealousy, but I will say they're on an equal level because, I mean, essentially, like Snoke kind of admits that he thought Skywalker would be the one who would grow in power to meet Ben Solo.
Yeah, but
and
he
was
also
wrong.
Scolded him and said, "You got beat by this, like whatever, like what was
scavenger."
Scavenger.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How embarrassing! And he was. I mean, Ben Solo is on a knee.
The scolding he gets by Snoke is unreal.
And his Adam Driver's like expression when that's happening.
Yeah.
That was surreal.
Dude, his acting is so good.
On par.
I know.
I felt for him.
I know.
And that to me, in his mind,
yeah.
I mean, he respects Snoke somewhat and how powerful he is.
Right.
That has to be in the back of his mind.
Right.
She did beat him. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, the thing is, too, I think Kylo was wanting, it's almost like he's using Supreme Leader Snoke to get a better power. He needs a master.
Yeah.
He needed to learn more. He didn't learn everything that he could from Luke, and he's seeking that knowledge that he could not gain from Luke.
It's very
because
Sith.
Luke didn't. It is. Yeah. Because Luke wouldn't. Maybe he sensed in his heart when Luke ignites the lightsaber that, well, Uncle Luke's not going to train me anymore. He's not going to. He thinks I'm a danger, and he's going to. Very much like Anakin, they're holding me back. They're keeping things from me. Yeah. I'm too powerful, and they don't want me to get out of their control. Yeah. And that's sort of where he goes to Snoke. But when Snoke says to him, "Take that ridiculous thing off," I was like, I was sitting there and I was like, this is unreal.
Yeah.
And he's like calling him a child in a mask and basically making fun of him and putting him down. I was rooting for Ben Solo so hard. Yeah. I was rooting for him to come back. I was rooting for Rey to even take his. Even when he said, "Join me," and it was almost like, and we can create like a new, like a new order or whatever, or we could rule together. Galaxy, yeah. And then he said, like, there's a pause, and then he says, "Please." He's like pleading for her, and I'm like, "Do it." At this point, I'm like, "Just do it." Take his hand and go with him, and that's fine. I mean, let it go. I don't even care.
Yeah.
Because I knew that would just ruin that. There's no way they could. You have to have.
Gotta have that.
There needs to be somebody on the other side,
That's what it is about.
But those two now are our opposites, right? Those are the two who are going to be facing each other down and having this struggle. And there's going to be a relationship between them in some way or another.
In some way.
Either they're remote, either Reylo folk are right, and hold on, Mike, don't go nuts. They're either romantically interested in each other, or there's a forced connection where they're just very close, or they're siblings, or they're cousins.
It could be, like the sibling thing makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
After seeing that take place,
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
It's not necessary. But it makes sense.
No, it's not. But I think they could be setting us up. Your parents are no one. And some people corrected me, and they said in the comments, they said, Ben Solo says, and she's like, and Rey is the one who says they're no one. That still in my mind does not confirm to me that they are no one.
I agree.
Who are they? They're no one. And then Ben Solo says they're filthy, junk dealers and traders and things like that. She could have been orphaned off. Here's something interesting. Spoiler alert for you. Battlefront 2.
Oh, yeah. Ez already spoiled a part of Battlefront 2. The
earlier.
Not the whole game, but the second
campaign. Right. So there's like an extra 3 missions that kind of come out in Battlefront 2. And it's more of Iden Versio's story. Del Meeko, at the end of that, big spoiler alert here if you haven't played the game. I apologize. But if you haven't played it by now, you're probably not Going to?
Oh, I'm going to.
Oh, okay, I'm just kidding.
I just gotta find some
slam. I'm just kidding.
It's the flu.
No, but so Del Meeko talks about fatherhood. Gideon Hask is all about like, look at you, how weak you are. You gave up, being a soldier for fatherhood and protecting your daughter and all this kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, get this, man. I want to get your reaction to this.
Come on.
Mike's getting his reaction. This is so.
Zoom in on me, camera too.
Yeah.
There's no one there.
So when you start off in the mission, you see Iden Versio flying around in her X-wing with her daughter, and her daughter
Is not Rey.
is not Rey. But you want to know what her daughter's name is? Zay.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Z-A-Y.
Jeezy Pete's.
what-
Interesting.
Interesting, right? And she basically takes on where it starts is basically Force Awakens, and it ends with like I've already spoiled this for Mike. I'm spoiling it for you too. Sorry. Iden Versio dies. She has to confront Gideon Hask, and excuse me, I'm getting all clogged up.
Yeah, it's okay, man. You need another record?
All right, yeah, can I get one of those? You got one?
Get another record.
Give me those.
Keep
Those bad
your
boys.
thought going.
And so Iden takes down. She helps get the plans for the what was it called? Oh, the big ship that they faced, the Dreadnought.
That was one of them.
In the beginning.
The Last Jedi?
And Poe had a plan to take it out.
That was a dreadnought, yeah.
He got the plans of it and its defenses and all that stuff from Iden Versio. She gave them to Zay. Zay gave them to Leia.
I love.
Right, and then Leia's like, "Hey, we're retreating from the planet. I need you to go to the Outer Rim. I have allies there, and I need you to try and contact them and see what's we need their help. We're evacuating. The First Order's on its way. I need the Inferno Squad to help me once again."
Wow.
And it's huge. It's cool.
I got chills.
It's cool, right?
I got chills. So
And-
does that lead right up to where they show up?
Absolutely. So you actually see them evacuating, the Resistance base, and she's like wanting to stay, but they're in a couple of TIE fighters. Her and I think it's Uncle Sheev, the
Sheev.
not Sheev. What did I say? What's his name?
Sheev Palpatine,
What's
right?
his name?
Spoiler
Shiv.
alert.
I think it's Shiv.
Okay.
I think it's Shiv. SHIV. I'm pretty sure.
I always thought Sheev might be playing both sides.
Right.
So if he
He's back.
Shiv, the blue guy.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
what
yeah,
species he is. I'm totally blanking.
He could be Sheev.
He's sheep.
Let's start theorizing.
There he is.
He's a shapeshifter, a changeling.
A changeling, yeah. So, anyways, they go to the to the Outer Rim, and but her name is Zay,
That's crazy.
Z-A-Y, and then you have Rey. There is a connection there, man. I don't know
Why don't they call her like Kathy or something like that? Something different.
But my whole point is, with Rey's parents being no one, okay, Luke was, living with his uncle and aunt.
yeah.
Rey could have been passed off at a young age,
You're right.
or had been lost.
Yep.
Maybe she's like the long lost, like daughter of Luke or of Han and Leia or someone else significant, and she got picked up by some filthy junk traders who, you know what I mean? Who then why would you sell your daughter? You wouldn't sell even filthy junk trade. You're going to sell your daughter for no.
It sounds like you need to pull up that video. Who left Rey on Jakku?
Jakku. You do. You need to pull that
One
up.
of the finest pieces of theorizing I
Right.
think we've ever done.
That's
that might
right.
be canon.
That might actually be canon.
Disney, now that we know they're watching.
Pablo
make sure
Hidalgo.
the equipment.
Yeah. Let us know what you think of our Rey or our
They're
Jakku
writing it
theory
down
video
right now.
Yeah.
Well, it was at 45 minutes in.
Right. Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, I think that's interesting, and I just think there's more to it than that. It's a great cliffhanger idea that she's the idea that she's no one, and she goes on thinking she's no one, recruiting other people, building a new family around her, and then in the end learns where she really does belong. That's storytelling. That's what people. A lot of stories use that arc, and I think it's what they may go
You ever
with.
see Zay's face?
Yes.
Does she
And-
look like Rey?
No,
No resemblance.
not really. Yeah, I don't really
Not
know
even
how.
human.
No, she's human. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
Interesting.
So
I can't wait to play it.
Yeah.
I'm still excited. Still have chills.
It's cool. It's cool. It's good.
Is it safe to say as that we think that The Last Jedi then is the reboot that we need
Absolutely.
or that we deserve?
Hold on. It's what we deserve. It's also what we need.
Okay.
I'm not even sure. I'm not someone who likes to call it a reset. Actually, I don't even really like that. I think it's just the idea is just like in 5, you think something's going this way, and we're gonna just take you off in this direction. We might bring it back, take you over here. Yep. We're not erasing the slate and changing everything. Yep. All the players are still on the board. We didn't reset it. We didn't swipe everybody off. They're still there. The only character who's really gone is Snoke. Yeah. Luke's still alive. He's still one with the Force. Yeah. Still a big player. Yep. Still can train Rey and help her set up her academy. Yoda comes right back once Luke reconnects with the Force, and he's there. Young Skywalker.
Love that.
So great. So to me, all the pieces are still there, and we're still ready to play. We're still ready to move forward our story. We've just gone in a direction that people did not quite expect, and I'm okay with that.
It's not. Yeah, I don't think a reboot is. That's not what it was. It's just a great installment. It's different. 3, 9 could be different than both of them.
It could.
Who the heck knows?
When it's going to have to. I mean, I think the galaxy could look much different.
Good.
One thing that not a critique, but episode 7 and episode 8, so The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, feel like the originals in that the galaxy seems small.
Yeah, it does.
And the prequels felt very large, grand.
Very large.
We're still in a big war. We're still in a war here, but like what they're showing us and things, I mean, it feels larger, I guess, in a sense than maybe. It just feels different. It's just the way they're shooting it, the way they're going about it. There's not like a bustling Coruscant that we're really seeing. The places we've seen are the Resistance and a base, and then maybe a planet. Canto Bight is the closest we've seen to something like that. And actually, people criticize people don't like the Canto Bight scene, but it gets us another planet, and it gets another idea of society and a world outside of the Republic's control.
I think it's cool not to expand the universe so much right now. In 9, we're set up to where the stakes. I mean, let's be honest. There's going to be some power grabbing. There's going to be some recruitment and stuff. That could be really cool. And that movie can set us up for a Clone Wars type series in between this and a possible 10, 11, 12 that expand things much more and just kind of set the stakes.
Right.
Or Rian Johnson's trilogy. Who knows? But it's kind of cool that we got so much awesome stuff out of how many days passed? A few? I don't know.
Yeah.
In Star Wars history.
Right.
And we got all this awesome information and storytelling in my eyes.
And they said it was going to be more with the Force and the Force abilities and new things and kind of start us down a path of what does Rey looking in that reflection mean, and all of those different things. She asked to see her parents, and then she saw herself. What does that mean? And two people merging together. One looks like they're cloaked, like it's literally Luke Skywalker.
I'm not
sorry.
That shadow looks like Luke
Skywalker. I think
Skywalker.
It's probably meant to look like a number of different people to different,
Look like Luke.
Look like Luke. We'll just go ahead and say
episode 6 Luke.
It did look like episode 6 Luke. Absolutely.
And what's the finger snapping? I mean, I think Rian Johnson may have explained this stuff, and I haven't read it yet. But
he did.
I think he might have.
We need to read more on it
because there's some spoiler stuff. But
I
want to know more.
Last thing I want to say about. To kind of go back and bridge a couple conversations we had, George Lucas's original 7, 8, and 9. Yeah. I think what he wanted to do there was kind of similar. The universe and the galaxy that he wanted us to see was going to be more like what the prequels ended up being. Yeah. Basically, that 7 you step into a fully functional Jedi Council with Luke as the master.
Yes.
Or Luke has set that up and is gone for some reason in exile or what have you, and we need to go get him. And then the Republic is in full function, and you see different, senators and interactions with different people and stuff like that. So more of that type of feel is where he was going, and so The Force Awakens, we didn't really quite feel that way. It feels very much Rebel Alliance. It's always kind of felt like that, and we haven't quite got to the point where we're going to see a much more, full, you know what I'm saying, like an intricate society or workings of the galaxy and stuff.
I
And we
agree.
may see that in 9.
I agree.
Actually, I think that's where we're going to see like maybe much more different settings and stuff, and maybe being a little more I mean, if they do it right, you can CGI some of that stuff and do whatever you need to do, but give us a more bustling world,
How
perhaps.
the galaxy functions and the stakes. That's
Yeah.
what I wanted. I get that's what Canto Bight was trying to show
Yes,
you is
yeah, it
like
was.
there's this upper class that benefits from this lower class, but the
Right.
lower class representation it missed so much for me.
I know.
I would have just rather. I mean, in the novels that we've read and stuff, there's poor folk in the mines, and
There
they're
is,
just,
right.
not making any money, or they're working for the Empire, like, or the First Order. Whatever.
The Ahsoka book's a great one.
Exactly. So like,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
The mining colony that she's on, and
yeah, they
the
just are
Inquisitors
ravaging
coming.
this planet
Yep.
and this moon that they're
Yep.
on. Like, I want to see the stakes. I want to see the effects of the First Order.
Right. We only saw them on the Resistance,
Yeah.
not the rest of the galaxy, really. And I think
Yeah.
they like you said, they tried to show us that in Canto Bight, but they showed it from the perspective of the rich are getting richer, this
Yeah.
wealthy,
And it was coming from a character that I didn't really believe in Rose. I believed that she had witnessed this stuff, but it wasn't. It didn't hit home.
But when you went to go see the poor side of things, you saw it in the children.
Yes,
And that was cool.
It was cool.
And the only reason it's kind of really cool is because then even in Project Resurrection and in Battlefront 2 is all about them colonizing these different places and taking children, very much like the Jedi did,
Yes.
and indoctrinating them into the First Order. And
Yeah.
so then they showed the opposite of that, these poor kids who are not getting the benefits of turning into, a stormtrooper and things like that. It's just there wasn't enough kids, there wasn't enough of that lower class for us to really feel like we knew what was going on.
I think you're right, though.
So-
that could get developed more. A hero grab. Let's call it a hero grab.
Uh-huh.
Who's out there finding force-sensitive kids? Because that's still. I mean, there's these force-sensitive people are still calling the shots
Right, for sure.
for the most part. So I think you could see this so much power grab, but a hero grab. We see it with the Inquisitors. They were doing it. You see it in, like you said, with whatever you just mentioned.
Ahsoka?
Yeah, no, she was part of the Clone Wars and stuff, but
Yeah.
but like they're out just getting children.
Oh, in Battlefront, they're
Battlefront,
taking they're colonizing and they're
Yeah.
taking the children. Yeah,
This could
Yeah.
be an
Yeah,
awesome
yeah.
opportunity to see it on film,
Right.
and just make the galaxy bigger.
Yeah.
Now that the theories don't really matter,
Yeah.
let's show the stakes and where the state of the galaxy is going to be after 9.
You can tell a lot in the scroll. You could tell a lot of story
Yeah.
in the scroll, and it could be a very important scroll for 9. And then you could, if you do flash forward 10 years from now, we will get. If we see Rey training right out the gate, we see her training a couple of different younglings or disciples or whatever, apprentices and
Maybe
Padawans,
she has
disciples.
disciples. They worship her.
Yeah, I would.
Maybe.
So, anyways, that would be right away. I believe it. You know what I mean? I believe it. And then to see her step into a back room or whatever and meet with, Force Ghost Luke Skywalker and him impart
Let's go.
more knowledge to her or whatever.
go.
And he kind of comes and goes as like this other master and teacher, and she is passing on what she has learned, but Luke is continuing to pass on what he has learned,
right.
which is what Yoda had always told him to do.
So much there, and
Yeah.
This isn't us saying it's going to take 9 to make us appreciate 8. Like, it's not what this is. It's not, oh, well, just wait for 9. No, we appreciate what 8 has done and the potential now. And I think our eyes are open to it. I really think they are. And a lot of people are.
Yep. I learned a lot from The Last Jedi. I learned more about the Force. I learned a lot about Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Rey's past. I still learned more about. You didn't get that she had this like longing to this idea to belong, and she was suffering with that.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot about the different characters and the story. That's right. It's better. I think it's great. So, but I'm just a fanboy.
You're just a fanboy paid by Disney.
So what are you gonna do?
Thanks for the equipment.
Oh man. All right, you got anything else? Well, that was a long-winded. Just
Man, it felt good. It's good to be back.
it's good to
This
be
is a
back.
good setup. It may adjust a little bit at times.
Yeah, our shot here and just the way we've done things is a little bit more chill, a little bit more laid back,
Yeah.
kind of a side-by-side shot.
I might put that lazy boy up here.
I think I was getting a kink. I mean, MS is getting old, so I was getting a kink in my neck trying to always turn and look and talk to Mike. So we decided to sit across the table from each other and get after it.
Celebrated a 30th birthday a couple weeks ago.
Well, see the reason I got us Disney helped me with the equipment.
They did.
Was because you were in your 30s and I was in my 20s,
Wizened.
and I didn't know what was going on.
You didn't understand.
You were saying things.
I was the Yoda in the room.
You were, and I was like, huh.
You were like Luke.
I was like, I didn't understand.
Young.
I was young and
looking to the horizon.
Yeah, I was young and reckless, and all I cared about was rushing off to save my friends.
Yeah.
But at the cost of what?
That's a cost of just
No, it was funny. We joked for a long while. I was just like, Mike, I don't even get where you're at in life right now. I can't even relate because you're in your 30s.
That's right, man. I'm going to start collecting, retirement here soon, and just I'm still going to talk about Star Wars though, man.
Amen. Yep. Got to.
You got to. Hey, you don't know what's right around the corner. Today it's our 30s, tomorrow it's our 50s.
Exactly.
It's
Amen.
It's all down to
couple quick channel updates if that's cool.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Let's go.
So, Mike and I are going to start hashing out some more different ideas and stuff for our Patreon. We're going to get back after that, and we've uploaded a couple things for January, which are going to be good. So you guys go check those out if you want to.
Right.
We're also thinking about doing basically once a month. I think Mike and I are going to kind of get together and sit down for maybe like this might be an all audio podcast on Podbean. The segments that we film, we're going to put up on our YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's just going to take a little convincing here for Ez.
What do you mean?
Get these video shots going with this.
I know, it's just difficult. It's difficult. Well, we got a lot to learn. Much to learn we still have.
So much to learn.
So, Skyping and setting up because there's a couple friends that live around the United States and in different states and in different cities, and
different galaxies.
Different galaxies essentially, and we want to get their perspectives on The Last Jedi, kind of put that all together in almost like a big 2-hour podcast. So that may be on Podbean and on iTunes. So you guys might want to check that out. If you just listen to us on YouTube, please go subscribe there. Leave some good reviews on iTunes.
This is for the listeners that they get the hour and 15 podcast, probably like this one. They're like, not enough. This has to be enough because I don't think we have any what do you call those SD cards that are big enough to hold?
No, we don't.
We need Disney to drop us a few.
We do.
Few
Gosh dang it, we really do. Well, here's the thing though: we have friends that want to give their perspective and stuff, and we want to do more collaborations and stuff. So we're gonna anything that we film, we're gonna try to post and put up there on YouTube or whatever. But don't be surprised if some things are released on Podbean that you don't like. If I can't get for example, Tiffany from Swish and Flick really wants to share her perspective. Did my hand just shoot into your screen?
No, not at all.
That was really. Did I keep it underneath? That's good.
Yeah, it was good. That was great. You've used your right hand a lot more than your left.
I'm working on it.
I'm using my left. It's everywhere.
This is great. We're getting used to this shot. So,
that's right.
But anyways, I'm going to try to do some Discord with her, talk to her, get some audio stuff down. And I would be fine putting that audio stuff up on the channel too, with some different, images or stills. I mean, most videos on YouTube are just stills. I think Mike and I and a Rebel Scum podcast are kind of unique in that we like to kind of give you just a visual. I mean, it's just two dashing,
feel like you're a part. Yeah,
good looking.
Yeah, that's a nice plug. I think we got at least a little bit of that.
Scoundrels.
But it makes you feel like we had someone mention in a comment on one of the videos we posted that had gameplay and stuff that they didn't feel as engaged. They like to feel like they're here having the conversation with us,
sitting across the table,
casting on their Chromecast, right across the I appreciate that too. I like to see how excited people are. So I like watching Rebel Scum.
Yeah,
I never listen to them. I watch them.
Right.
Like I love seeing how excited these guys are, and I will go back and watch some of our stuff, and I'm just like now I'll be able to see you better than I did before.
I
But
know.
you'll give some expression that I couldn't see because
I
you're
know,
sitting
yeah.
beside me, and I'll lose my mind.
I know.
So
I know.
I appreciate it. I think it's
Well,
it's fun to do. It's
yeah.
hard to do though.
It is hard to do, and that's sort of the thing is that, like, you know, if I'm basically just telling people this so that way, because I would like to guarantee sort of like a once a month big podcast.
Yes.
And it's more of that will be a podcast. It's like, I don't know, a 2-hour video on YouTube. I don't know that people are like podcasts are something you can listen to in your car, 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back, boom, got an hour done. Next day I can knock it out again. I listen to podcasts that way, and so if you're a podcaster and you're into podcasting, that's kind of cool. What Mike and I do here kind of is dual purposed in it. And this is like a 2018 update that we're kind of giving to people.
Yes.
So we are done talking about Star
right.
Wars. We're just talking
That's
about
right.
the channel a little bit here. So you can flip off if you don't care right now.
We're talking Tolkien.
We'll put a plug in
You're
for
welcome, Lane.
Lane, you're welcome. There you go, a little plug. Up
right.
Talking Tolkien.
That's right.
Check it out. It's a new podcast. But the idea is that those things would go there and then, because I don't feel like we should upload like a 2 to 2.5 hour, we could, compilation of all the different I feel like we would upload them separately.
Like
a 40-minute discussion here, a 30-minute there,
We
and
could
so on.
absolutely do that.
Yeah.
What I said, put it on my back.
Yeah.
Let Mike take care.
Well, once Mike figures out how to get everybody Skyping and
Come on.
recording
Okay.
the Skype and the audio,
right.
Ez will do it. Because I've got some, again, Disney, thank you for the equipment. I got some new equipment to where
Never
we can
gonna get
actually,
old.
I can actually record phone calls now,
Yeah.
interviews. So we're like more
Yes.
ready to record some interviews and do collaborations.
collaborate, yes.
It's just getting that,
Yes.
right now we're ready to get the audio quality done. And so if you're a podcaster or a YouTuber out there and you can help us, might have to be talking to Rebel Scum here soon.
Yeah.
Getting the audio and the video together,
right.
mixed with our audio too.
Yeah.
I just haven't figured that out yet. So slam on me.
We can do it.
But Mike said he's going to put it on his back. He's going to figure it out.
That's right.
You guys heard him.
That's right. It's happening. It's gonna happen. It's just
It's the evolution. It's just the evolution of the channel. I mean, it's just
there's an entertainment value that I really enjoy,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people enjoy that because I think we can be entertainers at times.
Come on,
Some people probably don't think we're funny at all. but
Mike's a little.
dang it, Mike hasn't had anything to drink. Okay, and that's like perfect segue into that.
Okay.
We did have a listener a while back.
S. Mills.
S. Mills 333. Maybe another 3 on the end of there. He said, he really enjoyed what we were doing, but at times the psychopathy took over. And I owe him an apology. And I want him back.
Come on.
You're right. Sometimes it does, and it's fun, and it's entertaining, and that's going to happen every once in a while. But
Yeah.
I want S. Mills 333 to come back and listen to this podcast.
That's right.
Because dagnabbit, I think we had a great discussion, and I think we know a lot about Star Wars, and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
And it gets deep and sweaty.
It does get
And
deep
that's
and
what
sweaty.
he's looking for. He wished us well,
Right.
but he had some concerns.
He said the psychopathy flowed a little too strong.
A little too strong.
And I said that's dark side, Mike. I'd say that's
dark side, Mike.
Dark side trying
And I
to
dabble a little bit in it.
And I found this out during trivia trials that Mike dabbled a little bit, and
Mike
it
changed the
concerned me.
rules.
It concerned
he
me.
had 6 psychopathies before trials even started.
Well, part of that was it took me 5 hours to set up. So
That's yeah.
you can't start psychopathy when you're doing a setup.
That's like
You got to start it when the show clicks on.
that's like turning on a spigot and the spigot just breaks.
Yeah,
It just keeps flowing. It's just like a waterfall.
I know.
So you gotta go in moderation. We're drinking Hefeweizens.
Right.
Compliments of Rheingeist.
Thank you, Ryan.
New sponsor.
Yeah.
Not really, but we would love it. Also, an Ohio brewer. But yeah, it's. I want
was
to
good to-
apologize to S. Mills. He seems like a good-hearted guy, and he was nice enough to throw a review there on iTunes. And I just wanted to apologize. But sometimes you're gonna have a good time, and we have such a good time.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, is that you have to understand some of our shows are going to be more informational, and some are going to be just us up here with our friends doing trivia trials, having a good time, and
lighthearted
and going
stuff. I
nuts.
mean, this kid's been my best friend since 1st grade.
Amen.
So that's it. It's not like I just met this guy last summer.
He was a jerk back
we were
then,
running
and
a
he's a
podcast.
jerk now.
Still just was
So-
drinking psychopathy then. Still drinking psychopathy.
Back
now.
in 1st grade.
I actually blame a buddy named Sam Ballinger if he's listening for the IPA.
Amen.
I don't want to call it an addiction because I have no addiction here. It's just
No,
I
no, no,
like
no.
IPAs now.
You brought up Sam.
Yeah.
Another throw, if anybody's still listening.
Absolutely.
If we have anybody who's interested in drawing up some concept art for a new logo,
Yeah.
we're trying to get our podcast, like just our logo and like a link to our page thrown up on StarWars.com. If you know how to do that, let us know.
Our buddy Sam, he's a great artist,
Right.
And we were like, hey man, we want to do something,
Right.
And he's like, well, what ideas you have? We don't have any.
Don't have any ideas.
We're not the most creative.
Yeah.
When it comes to
So even
art.
if it's like a pencil, I'm imagining I Eat Tacos is gonna draw up something on Instagram and say, "Here you go, Rebel Watch,"
He's
and it's
good
gonna be
at
so
memes.
vulgar that I'm gonna have to say, "All right, take two, my friend, and give us something different."
That's right. Or he'll have a GIF that we can put up in the banner.
Right.
He's good at the GIFs.
He is good at the gifts.
Really good at
he
the
is.
GIFs, but-
So just different things. So channel update, audio podcast coming. We're gonna convert that to all visual, but then those will be uploaded separately. More trivia trials to come, collaborations and interviews and things coming. So really excited. It's a new year, man, and so we kind of want to do a longer podcast to get all that stuff out about Last Jedi, where it's going, the discussions, and then update you guys on the channel. So
Are we saying we're never going to talk about The Last Jedi again?
no, that's not what we're saying at
Absolutely
all.
false.
We're just going to take different, we have a lot of different theories as to why they did this going into, there's a Kyber crystal we got to talk about. There's a compass we got to talk
Absolutely.
about. There's a lot of different things we need to talk
Royal
about.
Nuggets, you're right.
Yeah. So
Can I go ahead and just call out Swish and Flick while we're here?
Go ahead and preach.
Get ready to-
Yeah.
It's about time that Swish and Flick, just puts down the wands and
Come
picks
on.
up the saber.
come on.
Okay, I'm sick of this Hogwarts nonsense. Come on the podcast
Yeah.
and just chat. You don't have to participate in the trivia trials.
No.
Just come to
Come on.
Columbus.
Yeah.
If I have to Uber your asses down here,
Come on. Tell them.
I guess we'll do it.
Right.
But I need you to set aside a day
Yeah.
and come talk Star Wars with us.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little fed up.
Is that
It's
asking
feeling
too
a
much?
little one-sided.
Is it asking too much?
Is it asking too much?
No.
So that's just had to be said. As someone has to say it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
Okay.
I'm glad you did. Mike Zero, we're also still looking forward to that collaboration / trivia trials with Mike.
That's right.
So,
No psychopathy will be present for that one.
yeah, maybe. We'll see. All right, guys, that's it. I think we've exhausted you guys, so appreciate you for listening this long. And leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think of Last Jedi. If you have any ideas as to, other things you want us to talk about, discussions, theories, those are all still, let us know. We'd love to discuss those, and we love for you guys to influence the show and the podcast. So that's the whole idea there. So,
Right.
all right, thanks so much. And as always, may the Force be with you.